The world is counting on you.
If you love emotional sci-fi stories where science, friendship, and sacrifice collide in the most unexpected ways, then the ending of Project Hail Mary probably hits you right in the heart. At first glance, this movie looks like a classic space survival story, but by the time the credits roll, it becomes something much deeper. A story about redemption, courage, and the unlikely friendship between two beings from completely different worlds. And the best part is that the final act flips everything we thought we knew about the main character upside down. Because the man who ends up saving two civilizations isn't the fearless hero we imagined. In fact, he starts out as someone who was terrified to even go on the mission, but by the end of the movie, he becomes exactly the hero the universe needed. Welcome back to Your Nerdy Show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master. So let's break down the ending of Project Hail Mary, what really happened with Ryland Grace, how he and Rocky saved two planets, and why the film's final moments are actually far more emotional than they first appear.
Rocky saves stars. We can go.
The mission that Ryland Grace never wanted. For most of the film, we see Ryland Grace slowly remembering why he's on a spaceship millions of miles from Earth. Because when the story begins, Grace wakes up with severe amnesia. He remembers science, mathematics, and physics, but he doesn't remember who he is or why he's alone in deep space. Little by little, his memories return through flashbacks, and those memories reveal something shocking. Grace wasn't originally supposed to be part of the mission. On Earth, humanity had discovered a mysterious microorganism called Astrophage that was draining energy from the sun and other nearby stars. If the phenomenon continued, Earth would eventually freeze as the sun grew weaker. Humanity had only one desperate plan to save itself: send a spaceship to a nearby star system where Astrophage behaved differently and figure out how to stop it. That mission became known as Project Hail Mary. Grace played a major role in studying Astrophage on Earth, but he was never meant to travel into space. The actual crew consisted of highly trained astronauts and scientists who had prepared for years for this one-way mission, and that one-way part is important because the ship didn't have enough fuel to return to Earth. Whoever went on that mission knew they would never come back. But then, disaster struck. Just hours before launch, a catastrophic accident killed the trained science officers who were supposed to go. Suddenly, the entire mission was about to collapse because there was no one left who fully understood the Astrophage research. That's when the mission's leader, Eva Stratt, made an impossible decision. She forced Ryland Grace to take their place, and Grace didn't volunteer. In fact, when he realized the mission meant certain death, he tried to run away. He panicked, attempted to flee the base, and was ultimately captured, sedated, and placed on the spacecraft against his will. When Grace finally remembers this truth during the movie, it completely shatters his image of himself. The man who has spent the film risking his life for others suddenly realizes that he once tried to abandon humanity, but that painful realization also sets up the most important part of his character arc. Because the person Grace was at the beginning of the story isn't the same person he becomes by the end.
I think this is a one-way trip for me.
A story without a traditional villain. One of the most fascinating things about Project Hail Mary is that there isn't really a villain in the story. There's no evil alien race plotting humanity's destruction, and no corrupt government trying to sabotage the mission. Instead, the real threat is simply nature. Astrophage isn't malicious, it's not intelligent, it's just a natural organism behaving according to its biology, feeding on energy and unintentionally weakening stars like the sun. Even the character who comes closest to being an antagonist, Eva Stratt, isn't actually a villain. Her decision to force Grace onto the mission might sound cruel, but the movie makes it clear that she didn't make that choice lightly. She understood that billions of lives depended on the mission succeeding, and Grace was the only person left who could make it work. In one of the film's most emotional flashbacks, Stratt quietly begs Grace not to resist as she orders him to be sedated and placed on the ship. She knows she's condemning him to die, and the guilt clearly weighs heavily on her. That moral complexity is a huge part of what makes the story work. Every major decision in the movie involves choosing the greater good over personal survival. Grace constantly faces situations where helping others might cost him his life, and at first, he's terrified of those sacrifices. But everything changes when he meets someone unexpected.
Not an astronaut. I've never done anything. I've never done a space. I can't.
The friendship that saves two worlds. The heart of Project Hail Mary isn't just the mission to save Earth. It's the friendship between Ryland Grace and the alien scientist known as Rocky. When Grace first encounters Rocky, it's one of the most surprising moments in the entire story. Rocky comes from a completely different species called the Iridians, and just like Grace, he was sent on a mission to investigate the same stellar anomaly threatening his homeworld. Both of them are the last surviving members of their respective crews. At first, communication between them is almost impossible. Rocky doesn't speak in a human language and perceives the universe in a completely different way. Slowly, through science, mathematics, and curiosity, the two begin to understand each other. What starts as cautious cooperation soon turns into genuine friendship. They work together to study Astrophage and eventually discover a predator organism called Taumoeba that can consume it. If they can control and reproduce Taumoeba, they might be able to save both of their civilizations. Throughout their journey, Grace and Rocky repeatedly risk their lives for each other. Whether it's repairing dangerous equipment, sharing resources, or protecting each other from deadly conditions, their partnership becomes stronger with every challenge. And that bond ultimately leads to the film's most important moment.
I'm not good at things.
You know who you are.
The choice that defines Ryland Grace. After months of working together, Grace and Rocky finally create enough Taumoeba to stop the Astrophage crisis. Their plan is simple. Both of them will take the solution back to their home planets so their people can save their stars. But there's one big problem. Grace's ship barely has enough fuel to return to Earth. Seeing this, Rocky secretly sacrifices some of his own fuel and gives it to Grace so that his friend can make it home. It's an incredibly selfless gesture that shows just how much their friendship means. However, while traveling back, Grace discovers a terrifying flaw. The Taumoeba they created might mutate and start eating other essential materials, which could completely destroy Rocky's planet if left unchecked. If that happens, the Iridian civilization would be wiped out. Now, Grace faces a choice. He could continue toward Earth, deliver the solution, and guarantee humanity's survival, or he could turn around, use the extra fuel Rocky gave him, and go back to help his friend fix the problem. If he turns around, there's a good chance he'll never make it home. Earlier in the film, the old version of Grace might have chosen survival, but this time, he doesn't hesitate. Grace sends the data needed to save Earth back toward humanity, and then redirects his ship towards Rocky, determined to help his friend even if it means sacrificing his chance of ever returning home. It's the moment that proves how much he has changed. The man who once tried to run away from the mission now willingly risks everything to save not just one world, but two.
If we do nothing, everything on this planet will go.
What happens to Earth? Although the movie doesn't spend much time showing the aftermath on Earth, we do get confirmation that Grace's sacrifice wasn't in vain. The data he transmitted eventually reaches Earth, where Eva Stratt and the remaining scientists begin implementing the solution to stop the Astrophage threat. By this point, the planet has already begun experiencing a severe global cooling effect as the sun weakens. Massive climate shifts, food shortages, and extreme winters have started changing life on Earth. But thanks to Grace's work, humanity finally has a way to fight back. In one of the film's final glimpses of Earth, Stratt appears older and exhausted, yet hopeful as she oversees the effort to restore the sun's energy. It's a quiet but powerful confirmation that Grace truly did save his home planet, even though he might never return to see it.
So, I met an alien. He's kind of growing on me. At least he's not growing in.
Ryland Grace's new life on an alien world. Instead of ending with a dramatic return to Earth, the story takes a surprisingly warm and emotional turn. Grace successfully helps Rocky fix the Tomoaba issue, saving the Iridian civilization. Afterward, he travels with Rocky to the Iridian homeworld, where the aliens create a special habitat that can support human life. And that's where Grace ends up staying. Years later, we see him living among the Iridians, continuing his work as a scientist, and even becoming a teacher once again. He spends his days educating young Iridian students about science, curiosity, and discovery. It's a beautiful, full-circle moment for his character. At the beginning of the story, Grace was a teacher who preferred working with children rather than dealing with the pressure of global responsibility. By the end, he's still a teacher, but now he's also the man who helped save 2 civilizations. And most importantly, he's not alone. His friendship with Rocky remains as strong as ever.
An astronaut.
If you don't go, you die.
Does the ending set up a sequel? Interestingly, the film leaves one final possibility open. Rocky eventually reveals that the Iridians have built a new spaceship capable of taking Grace back to Earth if he wants to go. After everything he did to save their planet, they want to give him the chance to return home. But Grace hesitates. By this point, he has built an entirely new life on the Iridian world. He has friends, purpose, and a community that values him. Returning to Earth would mean leaving all of that behind and stepping into a world that is likely changed dramatically. The movie never tells us what he ultimately decides, and that ambiguity works perfectly. A sequel could easily explore Grace returning to Earth and seeing how humanity rebuilt itself after the Astrophage crisis. But the story doesn't really need that continuation because the emotional journey of Ryland Grace already feels complete. He started as a man who doubted himself, feared death, and tried to escape responsibility. By the end, he becomes someone willing to risk everything for others, even strangers from another planet. And in the process, he proves that true heroism isn't about being fearless. Sometimes it's about being terrified and choosing to do the right thing anyway.
This.
I am Rocky. I like.
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.